There we go. Hello. Welcome to another Raise3D live stream. As always, my name is Nick. Welcome back to the demo studio. Today, I'm going to be going over a lot of things in the Open Filament program. I actually don't typically get to talk about that too much. We typically actually focus on maybe just one material or a couple of things or whatever is new. So I'm actually going to be talking about some of the newest things that have been going up on the Open Filament program. And then I'll be talking about some of my favorite materials that I've been working with off the OFP while I've been here. I unfortunately have not had access to every single material. I would have loved to be able to test everything. But we actually have a separate team that's dedicated to just exclusively testing those materials. And they run those spools into the ground. So after they're done testing, there is no more material for me to have. So I usually get to work off the drags and stuff. But a couple of things just getting into, I actually haven't even explained what the Open Filament program is. Yeah, so Raise3D, if you're not familiar, we have the OFP, or Open Filament Program. We work with third-party filament manufacturers. We will look at specific materials that we like, that we want to have on our machine, or just welcome them into the Open Filament Program. We'll test their material, optimize the settings, and then we publish those templates on our website that our users can just download and basically take those templates and start printing right away without any fine-tuning required. So that's what the Open Filament Program is. And then just looking at the main website now. So here actually on our page, just from the main website under resources, this is where we have the Open Filament Program listed. So everything in here, I'm just kind of going down the list. This is going to be the best way for me to just kind of talk about the materials. Like I said, I unfortunately don't have everything here with me. But just going through another 3D Fuel, Pro PLA, that one's pretty good. All the PLAs, in my experience, are good enough to work with. Functionally, pretty much the same. Some can be a little bit different in heat, but these are kind of minute differences between the materials. In general, PLAs are all going to kind of perform the same for applications. The biggest difference, though, from manufacturer to manufacturer usually comes down to color availability. So looking at like our materials, since we just focus on having, a good solid version of like our PLA, we have a couple colors just available in, white, black, red, yellow, orange, blue, the art white and the gray. Art white's a little bit different. It's more for a surface quality finish. But these are the colors that we have, all the kind of standard primary colors. If we wanted more options, usually I recommend everyone to just go to like Atomic. I'm a big fan of Atomic's material. And then they have a great selection of other colors and things in here. So like they have way more options for different types of colors and a little bit of variance on the kind of material. So even though like our Raise3D brands are pre-built into IdeaMaker, we do sell them directly. We support them the best. It's going to be, kind of our thing is what we can support. But we do really like to have the other materials in here and be able to recommend, if you want more colors, go to Atomic. If you want polypropylene or really special things, those ones that we don't provide, we found another way to get them out to everyone through the Open Filament program. So I was on colors. The print life is actually pretty unique. I do like the brand. They have gone through kind of an interesting way that they want to perform their materials. Also, just kind of as a little note, I should say, these opinions are all my own from working with the materials here. I don't think this is like an official, I haven't been given a statement from Raise. This is kind of just me talking about the materials. Looking at 3D print life, the Pro PLA is pretty good. PlayFab is an interesting material. It, I think, is similar to a PLA, but I know it's got some different blends in there that make it a little bit more sustainable. But their whole thing is sustainability and producing materials that would be kind of more natural, I guess, or less harsh on the environment to produce. So something like the alga material and the Yoga Flex is, they have a flexible material as well. But the alga is made with a type of algae in order to produce it. And then we can still run it through our machines and get pretty decent usable parts. But again, they would break down, I believe, much more safely than any other standard PLA would. So if you wanted to kind of do some environmental stuff or just work with a really unique material made from algae, looking at 3D Print Life, I would recommend. 3DX Tech ASA is in here. That's a good material. Atomic, everything from them I do like. We actually did feature their flame retardant ABS in our recent fire testing video. So if you haven't seen that on YouTube, definitely go check that out. But you basically just work with that, download the template, and then work from there. I'll get into how we move the templates into IdeaMaker in a little bit later. Right now, I just wanted to talk about the materials themselves. BASF, big fan of the brand. I know we had them on the stream earlier as well. And then I've been able to work with some of their, I guess, newer materials. I worked with the PLA Pro. That one's a good standard PLA. The ABS Fusion Plus also works as a pretty solid ABS. The one that I really want to talk about would be looking at the BBOH and the PA-HT-CF15. So I have had decent success actually working with printing those two materials in combination. So it has some different results. It can be a little tricky to get it to come out like this actually, but just looking at the other one, since I did print another test batch of this particular part. Things like the gears and a lot of these smaller features came out really, really well with the water-soluble BBOH. So I was able to get a carbon fiber nylon material to work with this water-soluble material, which is really, really nice. We did try to run tests with it with other types of things, and we were able to get a couple successes with smaller ABS parts with BBOH, and then for other higher, kind of more exotic materials, polycarbonate and other carbon fiber nylons. I can recommend the PA-HT-CF15 with this material because I did get good results off of it, off the E2. But when I was working with it with a different carbon fiber nylon, since they can vary, that carbon fiber nylon didn't like to stick to the BBOH. So when it tries to put down like a kind of floating island or one of these teeth that just doesn't have any attachment to the part that's on the bed already, it would not stick to the support, and then that would cause the part to fail. So that's a little bit more experimental if you're working with a different type of carbon fiber nylon or a polycarbonate. That would have the same results. It just doesn't want to stick to the supports. So it can be done, but it would be for more geometry that has maybe tubing or empty vacuums going through that they need to be cleaned out with support structures, because of printing kind of floating sections on it that just get caught by the supports and then don't connect back to the main part are going to be trickier to get the stick on this material. So just making sure that everything that needs to be supported at least branches off from something that touches the base. That would be the best way to go if you are going to try to run this with anything that's not like another BASF material or the PA-HT-CF15, because that's the only one that I've gotten to work without needing to do any kind of special geometries. But those two, just downloading them, and then we can get them into IdeaMaker in a little bit later. I think I'll just show both those materials. Then moving on, I unfortunately haven't worked with the next of these couple ones going forward. I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with eSun. I do like the material. They have a lot of other options again in the kind of color changing. And then I haven't been able to work with the E-series materials yet myself, but I do like eSun's materials kind of just in general, so I would recommend them as well. The extrude I haven't had the chance to work with. Fiber 3 I haven't worked with as well. So I did get a question coming in here. Can you use that support with PLA and PETG as well as carbon fiber and the PETG carbon fiber? So actually the biggest thing that comes up when working with a water-soluble material is kind of comes down to temperature compatibility. So something like a PLA runs with the bed temperature closer to 60 C, and then the extruder is at 205. This material, the BBOH, runs, I think it wants to print closer to the bed temp, closer to 60, but it's able to withstand the range up to 100 Celsius. So if we are running something like our brand of PVA, the Raise3D PVA Plus, that is rated more for a lower bed temperature range than this is. So we could run both of these with PLA since that's a lower temperature range. But when we start getting up into higher bed temperatures, then I would look at the BBOH as an alternative to the PVA Plus. So for things like the PLA and PETG, both of these should work. A PETG is a little bit more experimental. Again, it does have that bonding issue that I described with other carbon fiber nylons and the polycarbonate. So that one can be tricky. But the carbon fibers typically are in nylons, so the nylon material prints at a higher temperature than what we would want for the PVA Plus. BVOH is in that temperature range, but the adhesion is kind of where it gets difficult. So this material is compatible, I would say, with everything that you have listed, and it would be an extra one for the carbon fiber nylon. This one, the PVA Plus, should work fine for everything except for like carbon fiber nylon, and the PETG is a little bit experimental. So let's see, picking up where we left off, the filaments, let's see, I believe I have worked with PCCPE. I think it performs a little bit actually closer to what I think would be more like a nylon. I think the PCCPE is still pretty good for rigidity, but it does have a little bit of flexibility. So I would recommend that material kind of for other things that you would need. Pretty good durability parts. Running a PCCPE is a decent way to go. Filamentum is just another good options for extra colors for PLA and ASA. The Fill-Rite Pro PLA, say more options for colors. And then a couple of these I haven't had the chance to work with yet. I know the Dubil materials are pretty good. I am looking at working with a lot of the ESD PETG. So this is going to be one of the only ones on here now that is approved with that ESD rating. So if you are working with making parts for electronics enclosures or anything that's going to need to be resistant to static, I would go straight to this material. And then, of course, Dubil offers a couple other options for nylons and polycarbonates too. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to work with the KXL material, but they do have brand new another template for the BBOH from them. So I've only tried the BASF's BBOH, but I would expect similar results from this, again, being the same type of material. And then the Kimya material. So I have personally worked with the ABS carbon, or the carbon. If anyone remembers the kind of rotary transmission here that we have, this was printed out of the carbon material. And basically, I don't have the drill version of this right now, but it was designed to have a drill mounted on the back. I could run this motor, have it run with all the axles there, and then by turning this knob, we would either bring it together into all kind of running without the shaft down here, or opening it up so it would drive this and the other shaft. But this one's been able to withstand a lot of wear and tear on that. I think actually any issues with the motion of this now was more to sizing of the parts, but the material itself holds up really well, and I do really, really like the finish on the way that the carbon looks. And then I haven't had the chance to work at the Levos materials yet, unfortunately. Manufacturers, again, big fans. Love the Nylon X and Nylon G. Pro PLAs in here, Build Series PLA, all very reliable materials. Definitely some of the things that we recommend the most out of this list. The NHH ones, I do want to point out mostly just because these are some of the newest materials. And it looks like they offer the matte option on some of these materials here. So we're looking at getting, yeah, so I do need to reach out to them to purchase them. Some of them can be a little tricky in how these materials are acquired. Because, like the big name manufacturers will always have their materials. Polymaker will always have materials available. Sometimes these can be a little bit more specialized and difficult to get access to. But when you can't get the spools, again, we have the settings, so ready to go. All the Polymakers in here. Polyflex we worked off of for quite a long time. We work off the Polyflex template and the Polyflex material. And then now we have our own version of TPU. So if you wanted to use ours and then say compare to a Polyflex, have the template here ready to go. Polymax PC is also another good option. The Polycast material is a little specific in how it is used. It's actually designed to be burned out of like a ceramic mold after it's been coated. So the Polycast has a very, very unique application. I would recommend looking into that material more. And I think we have, if we don't have a small video on it, we would have one coming out soon. Or we had a social media post about it before. I know we did something featuring the Polycast that has a little bit more detail on how it works. But it basically is meant to burn without any ash and to fully melt and be removable from ceramic molds so you can recast in those metal parts. It's a really nice material. Polywood is, sure, everyone's pretty familiar with that. But that's basically a filament that is, I forget if it's a foam or a powder, what's actually in the material. But it basically gives it a kind of wood texture. It's not quite the sponginess of wood, but it does have that kind of light feel. And I believe that it does take a stain, so you can paint them and kind of stain them like you would, any other type of wood product, and have them finish like that, produced that way. So the polywood's kind of interesting. Polyamide PA6 carbon fiber, that's just a carbon fiber nylon. And the Polymax, Polyterra, Polysmooth, a couple other options for PLA. The Polysmooth, just to talk about it again, that's another unique material in that, similar to the ABS acetone smoothing, the Polysmooth is specially formulated to work with the Polysure, I believe. And that uses diffusion of, I think it's isopropyl alcohol, to basically do the same thing to this particular type of material, the Polysmooth material. The ABS vapor smoothing method that we kind of talked about before, that would work with pretty much any type of ABS, but the Polysmooth is going to be a more reliable way to produce those smooth parts, just because the Polysure can be a bit more controlled. We would want to use that material with the Polysure to get your smooth parts, kind of like this one. And then yes, so P-filament. I love P-filament. This is an awesome material. It is basically the kind of one polypropylene that I've had the most experience with. I know that BASF has, what is it, the Ultrafuse PP here, so that I think is also polypropylene, but I unfortunately haven't had the chance to work with this one. Yeah, so that's going to be plastic. It is another polypropylene. Looking at the PP print material, they have the P filament, which is the polypropylene, and a P support. So we can actually dual print these polypropylene parts on the Pro 2s, Pro 3s, and the E2. And the way that this material works is it essentially, we would print the polypropylene as the main part, and then P support as, of course, the support structures. And once the part is finished, we would take that and then you put it in a chamber of essentially boiling water that softens the support material, and then you almost peel it away like a gum. It's a very interesting material. But this was printed with that, the P filament and the P support. And it was actually printed upside down. So all of this is supported by that P support material, and then again boiled, or essentially boiled off and peeled away. But the actual detail on this for supported polypropylene is really, really impressive. It's one of my favorite prints. And then just as kind of another testament for polypropylene material, I do print out my phone cases out of polypropylene, and I use them constantly. So I think I've been going on this one for over a year easy. And I kind of just replace them for preference. They withstand pretty much everything that I throw at them. And it's a really, really good material. It's super durable. Profound3D, give a shout out to them. Love the Octave ABS. Haven't had the chance to work with a couple more of these, unfortunately. And then getting into Tallman. So I have worked with the Tallman materials. Tallman 910 and 230, I believe, are going to be the most common. 230 is a little bit softer of a nylon. And then the 645 is a good kind of all-around working nylon, but the 910 is usually the one that we go to for producing parts in nylon. So for things like these, this one is printed out of the Tolman 910. That's a really strong, decent print quality. Again, there's no kind of linking. We're not worried about stringing or anything with these. Chainmail for the Tolman 910 did come out very nice. And another example of that printed in a full gear. So again, I could install these in something else that's going to be taking a bit more wear and tear. But the Tolman 910 is a great material. We do recommend it on a lot of things. And it's a pure nylon. So if you are running the standard 0.4 brass nozzles that come with the machine, you would be able to run this. If you're getting into like anything with a carbon fiber additive, then you want to switch to the hardened nozzle sizes. But just as is, Tolman 910 should be good to go off of the stock machine. And then, yeah, just kind of finishing up the rest of the list. Tree materials I haven't had the chance to work with, but I know these get a little bit more into the carbon nylon, and then PCPBT, it's another option. And then the WAN fab, I believe, is another blend of a TPU. But again, since we are a worldwide company, these manufacturers come from all over. So there can be a lot of difference in the type of products in here. But I believe that final one half material is possibly another type of flexible. That's pretty much it for the Open Filament Program. And then actually running, before we actually get into moving templates from the OFP into IdeaMaker, I do want to talk about one other resource that we have. Bring that up. I know we did see the pop-up for the Zoom there. My bad. Just a quick shout out to my demos. We do run those over video call. So if you do want to come in, get a demo, look at a sale, on our main website, we have a link in the top right for our demos. I wanted to get a look at IdeaMaker.io. This is another website that we put up. The OFP is a very official, that is kind of our fully validated ones for our machines. Those are the materials we officially support. IdeaMaker.io is another resource that we've set up where we will publish some settings on here. But more importantly, other users can go in here and publish settings or download them or trade them. So it's more of a community getting in here and publishing templates. I know a couple other of the coworkers in here have just been customizing things and publishing them on their own. And then, like you see here, we do have some of our official supported ones up here as well. So you can get them from both locations. But if you did want to work with usually like other machines within IdeaMaker, we'll have templates published in here for those, or just any kind of other material that we haven't had the chance to officially test yet or to officially partner with the company. More often than not, someone else will have a profile in here for that type of material, and again, for that type of machine. So if we did want to work off of these, I can sort everything based off of the type of model printer we're running, the brand name for the material, types of filaments, nozzle sizes, and basically work off of these exactly the same as I would off of the OFP. The only difference is really who's producing these templates. But if you wanted to pull one from IdeaMaker.io, go ahead and pull up our template here. And then we have the option to either import to IdeaMaker. That'll just pull up a download link that we can copy. Or we can choose to download all files. And that is going to pull in I think it will have the README file, sort of a text document for the actual information itself. And then it should have a .bin file. So that bin file, if I go ahead and bring that in, we'll get rid of our model here. Bring up our templates. We want to go to our Pro 2. And essentially what I have here is I just opened up our template menu. Control M is the shortcut to bring that up. I want to go ahead and import from IdeaMaker library. And then I can paste the link from the website. So then when I download this, it lets me know that it has it downloaded. Click on next. And then from here, we have the option of where exactly we want to send the material. So we have the basic template name. We can go ahead and change it if we want. But now we have the option of what printer we want to send it to, and then what template I want to put it underneath. The hierarchy for this is essentially the printer type, and then the material type and templates. So I'll leave it with our standard Pro 2, although if I wanted to send it to any other machine in here, I could. And then I have the option to keep it with our Raise3D PLA, or I could copy it and make something else later. Right now, we'll just go ahead and leave this PLA. And changing our file name so we can slide that in. So now that I have that template in here ready to go, I can either kind of create a new one and still use it as a base, or duplicate a template and have all of those settings and just modify other variants off of it. But that's really pretty much it, just being able to import from IdeaMaker library, importing from local disk. Like I mentioned, if you download the files, there'll be a .bin file, so we want to pull those in. We can also import files off of G-code files and off of data files as well. So if you did have, say, another file that had been sliced by somebody before, they had sent you a G-code and you wanted to use the same settings from that G-code on other models, you can just choose the same import tool, pull the G-code file, and then pull a template off of that and reslice using the same settings. And I did want to go through the setup for BBOH and PA-HTCF15. So I'll take both of those templates from the OFP. And then for this one, I believe I can take the link just for the PA-HTCF15. Import from IdeaMaker library, pull in our link again, pull that down the link. I think I wasn't sure if I actually already had it. I'll go ahead and make a new material. This can be our BASF. This will be our BASF HT CF15 and our ultrafuse. Whoops, let me see. Actually, I do need to change that because it is supposed to be going on an E2. And then, of course, the filing. There we go. So actually, I did already have that in there. I'll go ahead and delete that out. So we have our old one. And then for importing the BVOH template, I would really just want to import that as a bin file from local disk once I download that, because the BVOH set to the right extruder, once it's imported, BVOH comes in as a material template because it has overrides for the right extruder, similar to what you would see for our Raise3D branded PVA+. If we are working with PVA+, I can just set that to the right extruder. Should be that one right there. Because this has all the override settings built in. So if I'm working with any given template, all of these are essentially grayed out. It will not let me modify them because it needs to be modified by the filament setting that is overriding it. So just have BVOH, that one follows the same overrides. Having the BVOH set for the right side and the BASF for the left. I'll go ahead and bring in a model for slicing. And I just want to double check and make sure supports are enabled. Platform additions should be set to the right extruder. Supports in here are already set to the right extruder, so that should be fine for this material. Dense supports are on the right as well, so I'm just kind of double checking everything. And then if we slice with this, we should get our BDOH PHT G-code. Yep. So looking at this, switching to extruder color, I'm looking at the two separate towers here, so we'll be printing split tower for the BBOH. And the rest of all of this in here should print out accordingly. So I would expect this to be sent out to the machine, run no problem, working with both those materials. The one thing that I would keep in mind In my experience, when we're working with the BVOH and the PA-HTCF15, they do want to be dried pretty significantly before they are printed. So I would definitely recommend either drying them for a full day or longer, or best would actually be feeding them out of the print dry while it is printing. That way you would have the best results and the best chance of parts actually adhering to those materials. But settings in here are all fine-tuned, and then as long as they're properly dried, then I wouldn't expect any issues. Go ahead and close ourselves out, bring ourselves back in. So yeah, that's going to do it for me for the stream today. I hope all that information was helpful or it inspired you to go get some new filaments off of the Open Filament program. Like I said, no bad options. I do like every material that I've happened to work with so far. I just unfortunately haven't had the chance to get to every single material. But I'll be looking at going on and probably work on a few other things. I do have some other materials I think that aren't on the OFP that I might experiment with and hopefully get them on later, so we can keep an eye out for that. And then actually, kind of before I wrap up, I'll go ahead and just give a quick update on these. So I did bring my board in. We have been able to run some of the first, I say a couple versions of the parts. I've actually been making a lot of progress on these. So I do have one of these bindings installed. I am working on running the other side here, but essentially these things have been working really, really well. I have been able to fit into them. They hold just fine. And you can see a lot of the kind of more of the major design changes here. A lot of the front was cut off. The back heel is now almost entirely gone, but they do fully support me, and I have not had any issues just wearing them around yet. So we are looking to get these up to the mountain pretty soon. I have a couple other small changes, and I might be redesigning the actual binding straps to be a quick release rather than the way that they bolt in right now. But just as kind of a version 1 on these, we are getting close to being done. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting out there and testing these. And then hopefully things go well, and then I'll be able to show everyone else. But that'll do it for the stream for today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time.